Hello, guys. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. All right, guys. So today was again, not a bad day. Most of our trades were done in first 2 hours. We were done with most of our trades today, and there was a sell-off later in the day, but we managed our risk well. We'll talk about that. But a lot of earnings plays, lot of earnings plays. So definitely a lot of opportunities. Earnings is the best time to make money on these trades, and our setups are all our earning setups are repeatable A plus setups. If you don't know, you should watch our earnings webinar. But anyways, just before I start, let me do a quick introduction to anybody who's new to my YouTube, new to my Twitter, or is new to our community. All these trade recaps and all these teachings are from the from all the trade ideas that I share on Twitter, mostly in my community, or anything I share with you guys in my previous YouTube videos. We do not trade random. We have a fixed, repeatable trading system for day trade, swings, or any investments. We always focus on our same repeatable system. Thousands of traders use my system to trade consistently, and we have fixed setups. Right, system is how you trade, setup is what you trade. That's what I show you every day. Every trade I show you will be a different setup. Right, if a certain parameters trigger, then that setup comes up, and then we trade it. We don't just trade randomly if we like something, or we take a look. It needs to be our setup so that we have least amount of risk and we have maximum amount of reward. So it's all about having a risk to reward. Risk management is always our priority. So anyways, every day, me and my team, we are up early. We create the game plan for the day. You see the game plan for the day right here. Bunch of names here: NVIDIA, CrowdStrike, OKTA, CRM, AFRM. These were one of the top earning plays today, and there were a bunch of other earning plays. Tesla had a news; it was on our watch list. PLTR was on our game plan. ASTS target were also on our game plan. And in addition to that, I also provide something called day 2, day 3 setups. This is a repeatable strategy that I invented. I did a free webinar on this a while back. There were some decent plays there. ANF was one of the day 2, day 3 setups, and PDD was one of a winner of our day 2, day 3 setups. We will talk about PDD as well. And then I also provide the daily support and resistance levels, which you can use in with EMA clouds to trade consistently based upon these levels. If the system tells us to trade long or short, call or put options, we trade those. These are provided to the community members every day. In addition to that, we also have a low float watch list that we provide for our low float traders. If you don't know how to trade low float, especially with the repeatable setups, you must watch my previous low float videos, or you can come in the community and watch my presentation on how to trade the low floats. We also have crypto levels every day on our watch list: coin, MSTR, CLSK. In case Bitcoin is going crazy or any crypto news, we can trade these every day. So there's a lot of trades we trade every day. We have our marketplace. I create a watch list every day. I share the watch list with the community. I'm on live share all day, and they can see my charts, what trade I'm looking at, and analyzing the market moves. And you can see our watch list marketplace, semiconductors, day 2, day 3, and news plays. The all watch list, what you see is always on live stream. And I'm on voice first few hours of the market open, guiding the traders on the voice through the live stream about the trades, what I'm looking at, what's long, what's short, what idea is triggering from our game plan. We are not an alert service, but even without that, we share trade ideas all day long, guidance all day long. The key here is to help people become self-dependent, learn these setups that I show you again and again. Thousands of traders, hundreds of traders have learned from me these setups. They trade with them consistently. But in our community, we provide a lot of free tools. There's over 600-700 worth per month worth of the tools that we provide free in the community. So anyways, I'll start the recap, and let's start with the first play of the day. All right, let's start with SPY QQQ trades. Let's see what was happening. So every day SPY market, SPY QQQ, they have personality, right? So today's personality was a gap up, right? It was a gapping down after NVIDIA earnings, but then it was gapping up, right? So it was a gapping up. So gap up was a personality, and you see that it's right here over the MTF cloud. So it was this QQQs was right under the MTF clouds, and we were looking for a bullish move because the market was bullish today, right? Our system tells us what's the bias on the market at open. So anyways, the bias was bullish when the market was open, and then as soon as market opened, I told, once I saw the MTF push, I told everyone to long QQQ. QQQ pushed nicely from my long idea towards 478. Nice win into 10 a.m. QQQ pulled back, held the MTF cloud, and again pushed. So you see there was a morning long and there was a pull back long on QQ again, right? No reason to cut. You take profits, you add again, and you trade it back to the 478. We'll talk about what happened later, but let's look here on SPY. So SPY was not as good as QQQ. It was a little choppy. That's why you see I only mentioned QQQ long in the morning, not really SPY, although SPY was good as well. You could trade SPY long as well, but we were taking those profits into 10 a.m. Even SPY, you longed with the clouds all day. It rallied, and there was money to be made all day on SPY QQQ. Not only SPY QQQ, SOXL was also a good long from the MTF clouds, repeatable system. You could easily risk $500 here and make like $1,500 with this risk reward trade on SOXL, adding at 37.20s and all the ways towards 39, right? So that was a good trade. Even if you traded 10 a.m., that was nice. So you can see all the timestamp comments on SPY QQQ trade. Now, that was fine. Everything was going good. Now, midday is a chop. Either you take profits, you're done for the day trading SPY QQQ. But we were watching this breakout. So you see this line right here. So support resistance is not like some mumbo jumbo. It's actually the real thing. So if you see what I'm showing you here is, this is what I'm showing you. 1, 2, 3. So those are the 3 rejections at this level. Then again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. There were like 4 rejections. So when I saw those rejections, I mentioned in the community, although we were looking for this breakout, but when I saw those so many rejections, I told the community that watch out. It's 4 rejections. And of course, when VIX becomes bullish, SPY will tank. And you see SPY, QQQ and SPY starts failing. I send an alert out at 512 break that cut your longs. And my folks already know that's a 512 short setup. And then VIX started to push. When VIX starts to push, then you cut the longs. And of course, I personally didn't trade the short. I was away and I was done in the morning. But there was a short setup, and you could trade this 3450 break for nice profits. You could easily trade this 512s and 3450 breaks for a nice profits into the target. You can see my guidance, what I was saying here, timestamped. I guided the folks from this sell-off towards this target. So a lot of people made nice money on that sell-off in the midday on QQQs. You can see a lot of folks did those puts on those rejections. You can see how Emerald is talking about. So a lot of experienced traders in my community, they are guiding everybody through. You see how everyone is watching that breakdown. So very nice. Very proud of today's market navigation. Long in the morning, short in the evening, in the end. So it was really nice, successful day on SPY QQQ trading. You could not go wrong with your trades here. So very nice green day for everyone on SPY QQQ. All right, I'm just going to take a little bit time talking about NVIDIA here, right? So NVIDIA for me today was, for the most of the day, it was avoid. There was a long that I told the traders to take. Let's look at the NVIDIA, what I was talking about. Let's go to the game plan first. I shared this game plan on Twitter as well this morning for, I shared the top plays. So you see that how I was talking about that NVIDIA has support at 119.60 and then resistance at 120.70, 125. So I said there is a lot of resistance till 125. For longs, you can long over 120, use those pivots. But same thing I said, right? When it started to push, I said, so far versus 120, that's okay. You can long it. So, you long it from the MTFs, but you see the resistance I talk about. There's some MTF cloud resistance there. Then, of course, there's a 125 level resistance. And if you traded that open move, you made a couple of bucks, that's fine. And it pushed, and then it finally broke down. You could exit. Look at the bounce here. The bounce was right from that area that I mentioned in the game plan. And after that was no really trade. I told everybody it's not worth it. There's no range. It's trying to be bullish. NVIDIA is not worth it. I clearly, explicitly mentioned in the community that NVIDIA is definitely not worth messing with. And after that, didn't trade it, and that's what happened. Actually, NVIDIA broke down. There was a short. Actually, traders took the short later in the day on NVIDIA when it broke down. MTF clouds hit 2021s, and then it dipped to the MTF clouds of 50-55s. So today was the day to stay away with NVIDIA. That was my guidance, and hopefully most of the traders this did stay away, because there are so many other places to make money on with less risk. So we're going to talk about those next. So I'm going to go to the other setups pretty quickly here. Let's see. This is a CRM. So CRM was a short for us. Let's see. What was the game plan? Gap fill under the pivots, long over it. The pivots were 269, 266. As soon as it's pretty easy setup. The setup doesn't get more easier than this, guys. Does not really get more easier than this. Of course, I gave it in the game plan that you short under that 269, and right away I saw the weakness. I did tell everybody versus 270 short, right? And I always make sure nobody's slapping. There's a lot of new members, so I have to tell them to make sure, that have a good entry on the pops. So I was on the voice. I told about the short. A lot of the traders in the community were short CRM even before I mentioned, because again, our community is community of very smart traders, who trade, who read the game plan, or who already know what to do. And RGV was short. He guided the short in the community. You can see his timestamps here, all the way down, short, right? Raj was short, M Trader was short. Everybody, a lot of traders were the short, and the short went from 269 all the way to 257. That was $10 per share profit on CRM. The puts went 100% there. So very easy setup, guys. I cover this setup. This setup is called gap and crap, and I cover this setups many times. Setup is based upon the levels. It's based upon our EMA clouds. A lot of those variables are there. When the pre-market levels are clean, it's much better and much easier to trade this setup, right? So let's go to the next one. So the next one we're going to cover is PDD. So PDD was, I did mention PDD actually even in the pre-market, that PDD is one of the top watches over the cloud for long on 3450. So I explicitly mentioned that to my community so that they know, 15 minutes before the market open, because it has been selling off for 3 days, right? You can see the daily chart 1, 2, 3, and like after 3 days, and it's gapping up today. There needs to be some bounce at least, right? And today was the day. Why were we not long the other days? There was no conviction to long. It was riding the EMA clouds down, and now it's riding the EMA clouds up. That's why you can see that my day 2, day 3 levels on PDD 90.81, resistance was 92.44, and here you go, the time-stamped comments here. You can see that Vin was actually on it even before me. He was trying to long it versus 91. And Vin's guidance, and I gave the targets of 95, 50. We didn't get our target, but it was a solid move if you followed the pre-market game plan of 92.44s, the breakouts, or even the dip at 91s. It was a solid $2 to $3 trade on PDD. It was a nice winner for the community. It actually, even gave another chance, the pullback longs later for nice trades. And it did break 512s, reclaimed it, went into the chop. But regardless, we had a solid trade. It will be on watch tomorrow again for continuation. All right, now let's talk about CRWD. So what was the CRWD doing? So CRWD was another trade into 10 a.m. If you look at my pre-market guidance, I said neutral bias under all MTFs, but it broke the 264, 266 pivots right away. You see, right? You see this? This is the Ripster MTF clouds. All the clouds right here jumbled, right? They're right all at the same place. But when you see this breakout, right, if I can go to the 3-minute time frame, you long over those clouds, right? This is just straight the open. You can have a starter. You can risk is 261. Further away from the starter, smaller you size. And my target was 285. We almost actually hit more than 285 since the long over those breakouts, MTF clouds over the pivot breakout, and then there was this breakout. So CrowdStrike was a decent long winner for us in the community. All right, next we want to talk about AFRM. This one is very important for you guys to listen how, like, what was happening in AFRM. Let's go back to our pre-market plan, okay? So AFRM, the plan was long versus 36, 37, gap fill under it. So the plan I already gave, 36, 37, two support levels, right? So look where it bounced, right? Held that EMA cloud. Right from the EMA cloud, you can see that's bouncing. So that's our 3450 bounce setup. Now I was trying to trade the breakout at the amateur move, the first candle. When it didn't work, I got out of at the 512s right here. You know, I didn't want to risk the flush under it because I was trying to trade the amateur move. Right, so you can see that I was long, then you know, I cut, but then we got long again. Why was that? Let's see. Let's look at that. Let's see. Before I go into deep into what we did in morning, there was also a lot of option flow coming in, you know, on AFRM around 10 a.m. and after that it continued to push. So all these tools we have in our community we give us more conviction. So you can see that this AFRM 41 calls came in, and then you know the firm ran. That was at 10 a.m. Let's see how we did at the open. So AFRM, I gave the long right at open. But when it was not breaking down, then I said, you have to cut it under 512s. And then, of course, we look for 3450s. If it broke 3450, then you go short. If it breaks this, then you watch for the short, right? There's a big gap fill down there. But guess what? Right from the EMA cloud, it bounced. And this is what I said, 3450 bounce, no confirmation to the downside. So no shorts. If keep holding 3450, look for long again. And then hammer. Then the hammer came, you get back long again, 39, you put your stops at 38, yeah, gave 38 risk, and it's a confirmed bullish now, and you long it again, right? If you didn't trade amateur move, right? Some people don't trade amateur move, that's like it. Then you had a good entry, like you were not like trading the amateur move, and you get the amateur move trade all the way from 39, 38.50 all the way to 48. Beautiful winner in the community, right? So it's very important to understand the power. This is the 3450. Two things you need to learn: the power of 3450 setups, pullbacks, and the levels, and the difference in amateur move and the trend move. So nice win. You can see the timestamp guidance. A lot of community banked today on the AFRM. Really did good. Really good long on AFRM all day for community. You can see that. All right, let's go to the next one. AFRM actually gave a 512 short as well. If you see this 512 short, it broke 512. That's where I exited, but then it reclaimed again. It was bullish again. You could trade this reclaim, but you get out right here, the break, and then it's also a short if you want to short it. So repeatable setups. All right, let's look at next one. Next one was OKTA. OKTA was, it was a good short if you traded the amateur move, but after that it was a loser. So let's look at it, right? You see OKTA make a big amateur move, right? If you short it at open, that was fine. But after that, it started to hold. And I always, I watch that, and that's why I keep giving warnings to my community. I said, watch the pops to short. 76 target if low of the day breaks, but 78 was not holding. You see this swipe back up means no short. It's going up. Higher lows, no short. Higher lows, no short. Higher lows, no short. Higher high, no short. Now it did reject the 512s, but again it made a higher lows. So at this point it was not a short. You should actually be out of short when you see this candle. I know it's under 512s, but sometimes you have to make a judgment call to exit the shorts, right? And that was good warnings. You see my warnings was at 941 because I knew that low of the day has to break. I gave another warning at 955, the 78 holding, wait for the pops, and then it pushed, and there was no short, right? So this was a loser because a lot of us were trying to short it at the bounce. It was not working, but that's fine, right? We don't hold short all the way back till here. We hold the short with our risk. That's fine. It's calculated risk, right? If I'm trying to short the tops, right, 79.30, I know my risk is like 70 cents, 80 cents. If I'm trying to short here, my risk is right here on the clouds. So I know this is my stop. I will get out, right? I won't like hold it all the way up and just don't know when to get out. So when it doesn't work, you get out. So that was the trend move short, which did not work. All right, let's now look at some of the shorts which did actually win, right? So let's look at NTAP, right? So let's look at NTAP. So looking at the NTAPs, you can see that the pre-market guidance on NTAP was pretty clear. 124 support, resistance is 129, bullish to neutral, over under 125, right? Bearish under 125, bullish over. See, that was my pre-market guidance. Now what's happening? I saw the push, you see the rejections, right? Short, watch the pops. Now this one is much better short than the other one because this one is bouncing up into the resistance and into the MTF clouds. So you see that that's why it was all day winner on the short side. The short from 124s all the way to 120s was a decent $3 to $4 winner here. Okay, so this was a winning short. Compare it with a losing short on OKTA. So now next look at another one of the shorts we're gonna look at is 5, right? So 5 was another one of a working short, right? So 5, let's go to the game plan. So the 5, you can see that no long under 83. So that was the plan on the 5, right? You see that no longer under 83, and you see the weakness, right? It's failing MTF clouds, and that's why I said short, watch the pops. And it just failed. It kept failing from the MTF clouds. It failed all the way to 76 bucks, right? If you shorted 81s, 8050s right here, you made good money. So you see that how one of the lost short didn't work, and we could make much more in the shorts that actually work, right? So those are the setups you need to learn and differentiate what shorts work, where you can buy the puts, it will work, where it will fail. Let's go to the next one. All right, the next one we're going to look is actually one of our home run shorts, right? Which is called low can go lower. Low can go lower. Let's take a look here. So Dollar General was a home run short. Let's look at it, right? So Dollar General initially was just going sideways. It didn't do anything in the morning. Our game plan on Dollar General was extended to the downside, short under clouds, watch the 512 calls, 90, 62, and 96 support pivot. So it didn't do really much until I saw the setup. When I saw this candle, you see this candle. When I saw this candle, and then it was started to break down, then took a starter position, the short there. That's what I said. Confirmed short. I think I was on voice mentioning it. I mentioned it on the voice. 91 breaks, good short scalps. If 90 goes, fades more. And the target I gave on Dollar General today was, let's see, what was my target here? Right? So target was 86. You see that? And we actually met even 86.22. And we actually covered this, but end of the day, it hit 84s, right? So that was a home run short. I'm still holding some of my shorts that I did later, but most of the big size we covered here when it was curling there, right? But I did say that it fades more. Let me show you in the community. I said that DJ will have more lows tomorrow, right? So I just took a lot of, and even after I said that, after that it faded another 1 point, right? So Dollar General was one of those, that nothing is too low, right? And it's and you don't need to cover, right? I had a small size, fade all the way, you make good profits. If it bounced here, I would have covered at 92, right? I was risking like $1.50, but I made like $5, right? So it's such a good risk reward on this trade, right? So beautiful trade, Dollar General. Let's go to the next one. All right, next one, let's look at Tesla. Tesla was actually a good morning long winner for us. I'm not going to take too much time. It's pretty straightforward. Tesla, I told everybody long in the morning. We had it on the game plan. There was a Tesla news upgrade, right? We have upgrade, and I told everybody to long over MTF. That simple, that easy. Gave the game plan in the pre-market. Told everybody to long it right at open. 214 was my target. We met 214. We logged the profit. Then it pulled back, we logged more profit, and we were out. It's just a morning 10 a.m. quick trade. Now let's look at quickly some other plays. There was a PLTR which was moving. That was also MTF trade today. You can see that PLTF MTF winner. I forgot to put the levels for my community, but my community knows, right? It was one of our game plan plays. It was on the watch list. I didn't mention on the voice, but anyways, just wanted to show the power of the MTF clouds. That was from MTF, and then there was another play on the community, and this was by Vinod. It was IREN. Where was it? Where was it? Yeah. Long over MTF. That was another MTF trade. Long over 840. Yeah, nice little scalp. Was not bad. So those were two MTF trades in the community. MTF trade, MTF cloud trades. All right. All right, let's talk about a low float today. There was a low float that caught my attention for a midday setup. So the setup was, so this was a low float which was running, it was actually running in the morning, but when I saw in the evening, it was doing this and it was basing right over here, right? So it was basing right over here. So yeah, so those were, yeah, so I've been buying that on the dips when it was dipping down here. I was scaling in, and then it breaks out and I know it's going to push. Then there's a breakout alert, goes at 421, it pushes higher. My first target was 450s MTFs, and then it pushes higher to 465. The point here is that we are not just buying any random low float, we are watching the setups, right? It's at MTF clouds, downtrend line, support buyer, tape reading, breakout, another breakout. It's a setup. I'm risking $2,000, but I'm making $9,000. So that's kind of trade I want to do. One risk to multiple reward. And you can see why I was adding, because I was very, I knew the setup is going to work. So that's why I added that position here. Just wanted to show you guys to trade the low floats. If it broke right under this level, 360s, I would have taken a loss and moved on. But anyways, nice winning trade on a low float today. Repeatable if you want to learn. There's my timestamp guidance, price alerts, and if you want to learn this, come join the community, or you can watch my low float webinar. All right, guys, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.